All right, I saw the first episode of the second season of House of the Dragon, and I liked it. And it's more of the power of the series there, which is heavily on the atmospherics and whatnot, and the castle intrigue, which is the entirety of it. It's basically, you boiled it down. It's even Game of Thrones was the same. It's primetime soap opera. It's Dallas with dragons, and that continues to be the case here. And a very dark and a lot of a sad story. I mean, you had this friendship and maybe a little more between these two girls, and now they've grown up into these women in charge of a war that's broke out. Literally, it's like, hey guys, can't you rein it in and come to terms? Certainly not after the end of the last season, and now, well, it's on. And so I'm not going to spoil anything and that sort of stuff. I'm just, in a roundabout way I did, but if you already know, you know. But I'm not going to be specific. But it's all very well done. Again, the production quality is there. Yes, it's very dark, but it would be dark at night in castles. I mean, without a torch, you're going to take a wrong turn pretty quick. So a lot of that was there. There was some complaint about some of the darkness in some of the scenes in the last season. And the thing about it was that was done afterwards. It was the scene was shot on a beach and during the day and stuff, but it was supposed to be a night scene. And I guess they did it that way in the sense that shooting it literally at night wouldn't have worked. Maybe, I don't know. But that's what they did, and it's not so much that it's dark; it's that it seemed to desaturate an awful lot, where things kind of look kind of flat. But all in all, I was so engrossed in the story, I didn't care at the time, and don't care here. And I thought it looked fine here. So I don't know if there's been any complaints so far as to how it looks or whatnot. Apparently, it's deviating somewhat from the original story, but you got to expect that to some degree. But just in how it's presented and how the plot unfolded, it's pretty solid. And so it's all very good. There's a lot of similarities to some of the characters. Not quite, but it's certainly there. And when it comes to the original Game of Thrones, you say, oh, well, they're doing this and that. When it comes to prequel and sequel, or vice versa, it echoes and mirrors are a common trope in storytelling, and certainly you can go back to epics and whatnot and that sort of thing, especially when it's just generational and the ruling families and whatnot, and how they're almost doomed to repeat the same mistakes their forefathers did and that sort of thing. And that's aspects of tragedy as well. So it's not enough to where it's say, well, you're just copying the old show because it was so popular and that sort of thing. Certainly that's why something like this gets greenlit and that sort of thing. But does the tale stand on its own? And so far, I would say it does. Of course, the massive dragon in the room is the incredible collapse and failure of Game of Thrones. And with this being a prequel, no matter how good it is, it may even become a masterpiece unto itself. The sad thing is that narratively it's followed by Game of Thrones and where Game of Thrones went. And that was just a matter of circumstance. As the material ran out, the guys didn't know what to do. Even though I would always stand by, for the most part, the plot points could have worked. You just needed to extend it much further, but they didn't know how to do that, obviously. They didn't have the material to steal from just on plot points alone to flesh that out, because it easily was not fleshed out with, Khaleesi going completely mad because her friend got murdered. I mean, a lot of horrible things happened to her on her way in her really incredible journey that they had for that character. And then to suddenly, well, she's just like her dad. She's nuts, and she becomes a mass murderer, very quickly. No. Now, her eventually breaking and going mad, that's not impossible, and certainly it's in her genes from dear old dad, so you could make a case for it, but you got to detail and make credible story development and character development there that gets you there, and that's the massive problem. Primarily with her. The other stuff, Ari killed, and then the Night King going, that's another bad one, but you know, Ari just comes out of nowhere and kills the Night King. You know, it's stupid, and yes, it's bothersome here and there, but really the destruction of what I see it as, the destruction of the character of Khaleesi was unforgivable at that point. And so it ruins it, you know, it ruins things for any kind of spinoff, especially for a prequel one, because, well, you know where it goes. It's sad, but just for the entertainment value and the appreciation of good work, if you just compartmentalize House of the Dragon as its own thing, that's really the only way to watch it, because you know, Game of Thrones really pooped the bed, and since the books, it appears, will never be finished, there really is no decent conclusion to the story. So anyway, but Son for a Son, and I bet you can figure out what that's about. It does take place, and it's brutal and very nasty and dark, but a well put together narrative and story. And so it looks like House of the Dragon is continuing. It's only one episode, of course. It can go very south very quickly with something stupid, and that may be the case. But just based on the first episode of the second season, they're pretty much still on course of what they have established. So there you go.